What's up, Fuse? My name is Caleb Greenleaf, and hopefully you haven't completely lost your mind because you've been trapped with your family for the last 8,000 years. We've got a great service lined up for you today, and I believe that God has something for you. But in order to receive what God has for you, you have to want it. So do you want it? Do you want to be changed, or do you want to stay the same? Before we jump into what God has for you, let's see what our boy Caleb Greenleaf's got cooking up for us. How long have you been staring at me? Don't be a weirdo. What am I doing, you ask? I've just been playing this game for the last 24 hours straight. Check out my high score. You think you could beat me? Yeah, right. I mean, if you want to try, just open up a new tab and go to play2048.co. Then you can post your screenshot in the comments of your high score, but not just your score. I need a screenshot because I don't trust you. But you won't do that because you can't beat me anyway.
Have you ever spoken up about something and it ended up being totally awkward, hurtful, or embarrassing? You didn't mean any harm, but the way the words came out of your mouth, it just ended up doing more harm than it did good. I think we all can say we've been there, right? I know I have. I remember when I was talking with my friends and they were telling me about these big plans they had and what we were gonna do when we hung out next. And I remember telling my friend Katie that I thought that it was a stupid idea, only to find out later that it was actually Katie's plan. Yeah, it wasn't good. If you've ever been there, then you know how it feels. Of course, we didn't have bad intentions. Like, we didn't mean to say things hurtful, but we were just sharing our opinions, right? But when our opinions cause awkwardness, embarrassment, or even hurt, it kind of makes you wonder if we should ever share our opinions at all. But as bad as those awkward moments can be, I don't think those are the moments we actually fear the most. No, I think more often we fear sharing our opinions with our closest friends. Now, you might be thinking like, hold on, Jordan, wait a minute, I can talk to my friends about anything. And while that might be true sometimes, there are other things and other times that it can be even harder. I'm talking about the hard stuff, the difficult stuff, the stuff that makes speaking up or speaking out complicated. Think about the last time you saw a friend making a bad choice. Maybe they were hanging out with the wrong crowd, a group of people influencing them to make some not so great decisions, or maybe they were dating somebody who was like pressuring them to do things that they shouldn't be doing. And you as a friend were slowly giving in. Or maybe they were disobeying or disrespecting their parents, lying or arguing, or super angry all the time at home. Maybe you saw them stop caring about school or homework, showing up to class, or maybe you knew they were watching shows they weren't supposed to be watching. We've all had a friend do something or be on the verge of doing something that we know is really, really not gonna be good for them. And when that happens, if you're anything like me, you probably wanna say something. You feel like you should speak up, but you aren't sure what to say or how to say it, or even if you should say anything at all. See, right now we're gonna actually do something. We're gonna play a little game. And here's what I need you guys to do. I need you to go ahead and put up 7 fingers. Go ahead, put them up. I know it's weird on a screen. Go ahead and throw them up there right now. But here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. a couple questions, and what I want you to do is put a finger down if any of them apply to you. Here we go. Put a finger down, Fuse Edition. Put a finger down if you've convinced yourself not to speak up because you felt like your friend and what they were doing wasn't even a big deal. Go ahead, put it down. Here we go. Put a finger down if you didn't speak up because you told yourself, I don't want to ruin our friendship or make them mad. Put a finger down if you didn't speak up to a friend because you thought, what can I even say? I've already done the same thing. Like, what ground do I even have to stand on to speak up? Put a finger down if you avoided speaking up to a friend because you felt like it was none of your business. It had nothing to do with you. It didn't hurt you. It didn't affect you in any way. Like, go ahead and put a finger down. Put a finger down if you convinced yourself not to speak up to a friend because you thought they won't listen to me anyways, so what's even the point? Put a finger down if you didn't speak up honestly to a friend because you know that you're not supposed to gossip. But it sort of felt like gossip, even if you brought it up just to them. Wasn't that the whole unwholesome talk thing that we just talked about the other day? And finally, put a finger down if you avoided speaking up to a friend because you thought, I've already told them what I think. Do I really need to tell them again and again and again? Here's what you need to know. You're not the only one that puts some of your fingers down. We've all been in those situations where we know we should speak up, but we make excuses for why we don't. And while I think it's normal to feel that way, we're going to learn today why that's probably not the best choice we can make. Now, let me pause here and say that I know that this isn't the case for all of us. Some of you have no problem speaking up. You aren't shy at all about telling your friends what you think. Well, don't check out here because trust me, this is for you too. Because when it comes to speaking up in situations like these, we all have our hangups. Maybe for you, speaking up is a struggle and you constantly question if it's worth the risk. Or maybe speaking up comes easy, but you probably don't always offer your opinion in the nicest way. Either way, there has to be a better way to speak up and share our opinions when we think that we're being helpful and when we care about someone, right? Here's the truth, guys. This question of how to find the best way to speak up isn't a new one. About 2,000 years ago, a guy named Paul wrote a letter to a church, and part of that letter addressed this very issue. Paul wrote in this letter because he cared about the believers in the church. He knew they were trying to figure out how to live in the best way, but honestly, they were struggling because sometimes knowing how to do that can be confusing. That's why Paul put a pen to paper to help his friends out. Take a look at some of the things that he wrote. Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help the person back into the right path. Now, even though Paul addressed this passage to people who lived a long time ago, I think we all can learn something from this. It doesn't matter if you grew up in the church or if this is your first time here. This can apply to all of us. See, Paul addressed this passage to fellow Christian believers because they were his friends. He cared about them. He cares about what happened to them. And because of that, he didn't want them to make choices that hurt themselves or others. I think we all can relate to that feeling, right? When we care about someone else, then we want what's best for them. We don't want to see them hurting themselves or hurting anyone else. And sometimes that means we have to speak up when we see them heading in a direction. So what did Paul say we should do according to this verse? When we see friends who are struggling with this that might hurt themselves, or they're moving down a path that is going to lead them to something harmful. It's important that we do what we can to help them come back onto the right path. And a lot of times that includes speaking up. Now I get it that this is super hard, and for a lot of us, like we said earlier, there are so many reasons not to say something that we know our friends don't necessarily want to hear. We're afraid of it, and we know that it might hurt their feelings or upset them or damage the relationship. But I think in situations where our friends are walking towards something that could potentially be super bad news for them and in their lives and their futures, if we care about them, if we care about that person more than the relationship, we have to care enough to speak up. Even if it means our friendship is a little bruised in the process. I know that can be a hard thing to do. So to start, try this for me. Put yourself in their shoes. If you were the one who was walking a path that everybody else saw as potentially going in a really bad direction, or it was really bad news for you, would you want someone to tell you? What would you want them to tell you? Would you want a friend to stop you, help you, point out what they saw that had potential to hurt you? Would you want them to have the courage to have the hard conversation with you? I know I would. Well, when you see a friend in the same place, you have a chance to be that person for them. You have an opportunity to speak up and to help them move back towards the right path. Now, like we said, there are some of you who are like, I'm not afraid to speak up. I even kind of like to tell people when they're in the wrong. Well, look back at the verse again, because Paul didn't just tell us to help our friends get back to the right path. He told us how we were supposed to do that, with gentleness, with humility. See, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it that needs to speak up. But you need to do it in the right way with the right heart. Paul says, with gentleness and humility, help your friends you see struggling down the wrong path. What does that look like? Well, it means speaking up with kindness and love and encouragement instead of anger or frustration or judgment. It means caring more about the person you're speaking to than about the fact that you're right. Speak up, but do it with kindness. Be helpful, encouraging, and loving. In other words, use kindness and love when you speak up. When we approach tough conversations with love and kindness, it will change both what we say and how we say it. We'll speak up because we love others and want what's best for them. And we'll do it in love, using words that encourage, rebuild, and help our friends get back onto the right path. Use kindness and love when you speak up. So, the next time you find yourself in a situation where you think you need to speak up, I want you to ask yourself a couple of things. Number one, what does it look like to love my friend and show kindness in this situation? Maybe it's the way that you talk to them about it, the actual words that you use to have this conversation. Maybe it's choosing a gentle tone over a harsh one. Maybe it's choosing to talk about it only with friends instead of with other people. Maybe it's simply agreeing to pray for them or offer them encouragement when you see them making a good choice, or reminding them that you love them no matter what. Maybe it's not saying anything at all until you can figure out how to say it in a gentle and humble way. Whatever it is, before you speak, consider what it looks like to show the other person love in your conversation. Number two, what would I want? Put yourself in their shoes. If it was you, would you want someone to talk to you about the issue? How would you want them to talk with you? And when would you like them to do it? In other words, how would you want someone to show you love and kindness in this conversation? Think about it and try to do the same for the friends around you who need your love in the same way. Guys, I love you so much, and I want to encourage you as you're having these tough conversations, as you're stepping out in faith, as you're showing courage, be sure to do it in love.
Thanks, JP, for that word. It's so true that when we're following Jesus, it's our job to use our words for kindness and love. Jesus' brother actually said, don't just be hearers of the word, but be doers. So this week, will you choose to be a doer? Will you choose to use your words for good, or will you just be a hearer? It's up to you.
Love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in the darkest night. You were close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. Yeah, and all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Yeah, 'cause your goodness is running after, it's running after me. 'Cause your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. 'Cause your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Yes. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna
Well, Fuse, that wraps up our time together this week. But don't worry, we'll meet again soon. Oh, and let your friends know about these videos. Who knows, they might watch them too. And if you ever need anything, please just reach out to us. It would be our pleasure to serve you in any way that we can. And remember, don't just be a hearer of God's word. Do what it says. We love you all. We'll see you all next week.